but we did want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions of the board members either during this setting where they're on stage or perhaps afterwards more informally. So I'm going to give you the chance now, and we have our National Honor Society students. If you have a question that you have jotted down on the card, they're going to just roam the audience and pick those up. But while they're doing that, let's just go very quickly to a list of questions that came in at the website. While the board members are taking their place, for the sake of time, we'll kind of sample some of the questions that were submitted online. Let's go back to the segment on financial climate. And there was a question submitted online regarding the district's tax levy. The district's tax levy is about 60% of the whole tax bill. Is it fair for schools to raise the tax levy when nearly every Barrington family has had to cut back or worse? So let's start with members of the board. Mr. Battle, Mr. Church, who addressed finances earlier.
It's certainly a fair question, and the quick answer is this year we will have to revisit. I'm sure we'll have some discussion. Our historical practice has been to let the tax cap dictate what the revenues are going to be. The tax cap, again, is it's CPI plus new growth. We will actually be discussing it at next Tuesday's meeting. We'll have our first conversation this year about the tax levy and what our approach to that may be. You know, as we were building up those fund balances and trying to get ourselves on a healthy financial base, obviously it was, you know, we thought the tax cap was a prudent tack. I certainly understand, and I think that all the board members are sympathetic to the economic realities of all of our community. And it's something that we'll talk about. Part of the difficulty I know we're going to have this year is what we talked about before is we have absolutely no certainty as to what our own individual, from the school district perspective, what our financial position is going to be until we get more definitive answers from the state. But we'll begin the tax levy conversation actually next Tuesday night.
Okay, thank you. While the students are collecting those cards, I should also mention that we're being assisted by Cindy Duskoviak, who's the Assistant Superintendent for Educational Programs and Assessment. She's just scanning the questions very quickly to see if some, perhaps, can be combined, and we'll try to ask some of those in just a moment. So let's jump back to one of our web questions regarding physical climate. Class sizes at Huff Elementary continue to grow. My child's first grade class has 27 students, and there is no teacher's aide. How do you plan to address escalating class sizes so each child gets the attention he or she needs to learn? Any of the board members care to jump in on that one?
I think they're planting that.
All right, Dr. Leonard.
I have lots of charts. We have, as I think Penny and Sandra showed you the different enrollments. For the most part, we're in pretty good shape in terms of average class size. I think the elementary level, a little over 21 is an average. You're always going to have some bubbles and some small classes somewhere. It just is the way it's going to be. If we want to have neighborhood schools, we're not going to always have exactly, in Huff, which is a two-section school, we're not going to always have exactly 44 students showing up, so we can divide it nicely into 22 and 22. It'd be nice if that always worked. There have been years, if you go past the history of Huff, the two-section school, which has about the most limited enrollment that we have, has been smaller, much smaller. We do have some aides in these two classrooms. They're not general purpose aides, they're connected to a student, but they do help out a little bit. We had to make some decisions at Huff. We had to make a decision whether we're going to do a split class, first, second grade grouping, so we had those conversations with the teachers and the principal. We also don't have a lot of space there. We wanted to keep the extended gifted program self-contained there, so we didn't have a lot of places to expand in that particular building. But we do monitor that, we do watch it. I connect with the principal, I connect with Louise Robb. They let me know what they need. Right now it would be hard to add another section there, but we'll continue to assess that, and we watch that. There's probably 3 other locations at the elementary, at Grove, at Rose, and we're watching particular grade levels. But overall, I think we're in pretty good shape in terms of enrollment, but each year won't be exactly even.
I think also, if I may just here, the question talked about having high enrollment, and I think it's important to note that over a period of time, and Brian and I probably have the best view because we've been around the longest, but there was a point in time prior to our operating tax increase where we had crushing class sizes in several places and really didn't have resources to deal with it. I think if you look at the whole of the district now, these issues that we're having really are, they don't feel minor to people who might have, 26 kids in a second grade classroom or whatever the number happens to be. But on a governing level, when we look at the whole of the district, we're doing such a better job at managing class size, addressing these issues, and I think balancing the need to help the teachers and the children that are in those classrooms, but also trying to manage the finances of the district as well.
If I could add just one more thing to the class size issue, just keep asking. We mentioned during our presentation that we feel we've got a much improved budget process. We actually asked Tom and his staff, when we're evaluating different staffing reductions, what we think that impact is going to be on class size. So we do try to take class size impact into account when we're making a lot of our staffing and budgetary decisions.
So that question was about elementary class sizes. Let's jump to a question from our audience. Christina asks, what are long-term plans for middle school classes in mobile classrooms?
You want to tackle it?
I'd be willing.
I'll start. Several years ago, we added the mobile classrooms. It was because we were in a situation where we had a referendum that had failed, and the class sizes in middle school were not good. Our utilization of the space at the middle school was... That's my microphone. Our utilization was, I think, 98%. Very high. We had teachers on carts, and so when we decided that we were going to stay with our 2 middle schools that we have right now, we decided that we would add those mobiles. That has made a significant...
Encouraging this by, in essence, paying for the cost that we would have it would be impossible for us to get over. I think that when you take a look at the costs, it's not really the financial costs that we can put our finger on now that are the challenges, the reason the board is being very thoughtful about this. It is the loss of flexibility that a program like this gives us. When we have enrollment problems in a school that has 4 sections of normal education that's exactly the same, we have the ability of changing where the teachers are. If we have to have 2 classrooms at a grade level that has to have a Chinese-speaking teacher, and you have 2 other classrooms in that grade level that have educational needs because of their enrollment, and maybe too many to have 3 classrooms, or too many to have 2 classrooms, but not enough to have 3. If you have that educational program in the school, you don't have the same flexibility, and it could be a financial issue down the road because you have to either put an aide into that classroom or there has to be less flexibility in how you address those things. The problem for the school board is a lot of those unknown issues are very hard to quantify. And so for us to turn down the educational opportunities that this provides, I speak for myself, gives me pause. But on the other hand, tying the district's hands and future school board hands also concerns me greatly, because I won't be around when whatever unseen problems pop up. I'm going to force them on somebody else in the future.
I think the other challenge associated with the Chinese immersion program that we have yet to work out is the transportation. Finance spoke earlier about a reduction in the state funding of reimbursable transportation. When you saw the map of the district, 72 square miles. When you're bringing students from all points of the district to one place, it creates challenges with transportation. How long does the student sit on the bus? How many kids can you have on the bus? How can you create some efficiencies when doing that? So that's something the administration is trying to work on right now to see if there can be some efficiencies and some cost savings, because we don't know how much more that reimbursable transportation may be eliminated. It may all go away, and those transportation costs are huge to our district.
I can just say this is extremely complex. We spent hours studying it internally. It got bored, that's been in one long conversation or another, and we can't get into all the logistics here. But I would say that sometimes there are great opportunities that also present great challenges. This is one of them. If you look back several years ago, the dual language program was an opportunity, but had challenges. The extended, self-contained, gifted program, opportunities, but challenges. This board is deliberating on this. It is complicated, but there's definitely some positives. And we'll see how it plays out in the next couple meetings.
And this is where the saying, does the juice, what is it essentially, yours is the juice worth the squeeze?
We have heard, I think, these questions, people have communicated to the board. I mean, one of the reasons we're considering it is the educational value. And quite honestly, there's a lot of people in our community who want, who like the concept of an additional language in front of it. So it does meet the needs or the desires of a lot of people in our community. There are logistic issues, financial issues, we've heard from the community on that, and I think this board really is struggling a little bit with how we're weighing it. So I'm selling next Tuesday's meeting, so we're talking about this again next Tuesday, so feel free to come join us.
Here's another pair of questions within the instructional domain about special education. How does the rate of students with IEPs, that being individualized educational plans, compare with the amount of IEP students in other local districts? And how is that rate affected by RTI, which is response to intervention? Okay. I think we've got a microphone, so we're going to pass that over to Connie Simon, who is our Assistant Superintendent for Special Services.
Actually, we are involved within guidelines. The state of Illinois, the percentage is typically somewhere between 14 and 15%, and our special education percentage is 14.7% currently, so we are within guidelines.
The only other piece of that question was the connection out of the eye. And
in terms of RTI, the RTI concept is really about getting interventions in the hands of students early on. It's about providing opportunities for children to be able to expand reading, math abilities, writing abilities, etc. Making sure that we're providing interventions very early so that we can perhaps avoid having to attach a disability to a child. That is certainly the long-term goal, but it is also about getting interventions early.
All right, here's a question again regarding finances. When finances improve, what will be the top priorities? What will be reinstated or pursued?
We're laughing. I don't know that many of us right now have any confidence on when finances improve. It's so tied right now to the state of Illinois resolving its issues. It's difficult for us to get beyond this year, to be honest with you. So,
I think the answer to that question depends on where we go, because the near term is nothing more than what we've done in the last 2 years. The near term is balancing the budget by looking at expenditures. And when I say the near term, I would say at least the next 2 years. And what the district actually looks like, I would hope that the advances we've made in class size, the advances that we've made in programs during sort of this golden period where we've had money to have class sizes where we'd like them to be, I hope that we're not sliding backwards to a point where something has to come back. But time will only tell based on what the next couple of years. And I'm assuming that the economy and everything turns the world. That this isn't the world that we're going to live in forever and ever. I don't know that for certain either. But hopefully for just 2 years, we're not going to.
We were treading water.